Ladies and gentlemen, long time no see. I do apologize for the hiatus of the Let's Talk 20's podcast. Life got in the way. It's been a few weeks, but I really did want to keep this consistent. So I'm going to try to do an episode every week, which is pretty much what I was doing prior. But we're going to try to keep it consistent here. So for episode 5, which is a big milestone, I have my buddy Josiah, Mr.
Hello.
Meese.
Hello.
What's going on, man?
Not much. You?
Oh, just another day in paradise, my man.
Always.
Let's talk about how we met, because I like to try to introduce the guests on the podcast, so at least the viewers or listeners, whatever you want to call them, kind of have an idea of who you are and how we met and you know how our relationship came to be. So if you want to take it away, good sir.
Yeah, totally. So we met when we were in marching band. It was during band camp. I think we actually kind of like not really introduced ourselves because the very first interaction we had, we were playing. I can't remember if it was like football or kickball, but I remember the ball was like going way into the senior line, and we, like the two of us, we were running after it. And then my first words to you were "fuck you." I don't know if you love swearing or all that. And then you yelled back "fuck you too," and all that. So that was my first interaction. But we were having fun. It wasn't like anything personal. And I just remember laughing so hard because you booked it after that. Like you were sprinting.
That was in my
After
more
that.
athletic prime days, Josiah.
Yeah, always in our athletic primes. Back in those days. But it wasn't until the following year, my sophomore year, where we actually started hanging out a lot more because I was good friends with Jacob, who was
Yep.
on the previous episode, and we kind of had that connection. So I kind of befriended you, Chase, and all that through him.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
Absolutely.
and then of course you were the band captain your senior year, and you had everybody fawning over you. So
Oh, is that what happened? I don't remember. Remind me.
well, I mean,
I'm
because
just, I'm just being a dick. No, that's yeah, that's. I mean, yes, you were in that friend group with Jacob and Chase and all them, so we were friends of friends, and obviously you and I continue to kind of talk throughout the years here and there, and we met up at Jacob's wedding, which was the first time I saw you in a good while, and it was really good to catch up then. And then you've
yeah, because
been,
I was in my blues that day.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just recently promoted as well.
That's right. Well, tell everyone what you do for work and everything, man. Let the people know.
Okay, so I am a senior airman in the United States Air Force. I am a public affairs specialist. So my job as PA, I'm basically supposed to tell my unit's story. So be it through photography, videography, basically news or press releases. Basically, my job, kind of not really movie ish, but basically I'm kind of a reporter, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
So over the past several years, since 2019, I've been taking photo and video for my unit. Um, yeah, I just got back from deployment, as a matter of fact. So that was, this is, I mean, big milestone. That was a lot of fun. 6 months out in the desert, splendid.
Are you allowed to say where you were, or is that?
Yeah. So I was in Kuwait for the first half, and then I got transitioned over to the Horn of Africa.
That's
So
awesome, man.
yeah. So I mean, not really like in the rough, like Iraq or Afghanistan or anything like that, but still lot lots of opportunities. It was really cool. Got to meet a lot of cool folks and all that.
Absolutely, man. That's awesome. Africa, granted, I've only been to Tanzania for a little over a week and a half or something
Oh,
like
okay.
that. But Africa is, people don't really know about the hidden gem that Africa can be. It really is beautiful, and
Oh
there's a
yeah.
lot that it offers in the culture. There's so much different, obviously, from Western culture. So it can be really, at least for me, it's really interesting to learn about different cultures, and they obviously do things a lot differently over there. But really beautiful, beautiful place.
Oh, absolutely. I was in Kenya for I think maybe two, maybe 3 weeks as part of my job. So I had to do you know PA stuff for the east side. So basically, I covered Djibouti and Kenya. We had a couple units um, that I would report for, and sometimes they would send me over to Kenya. And you want to talk about like a vast difference, because Djibouti is basically rocks and desert as far as the eye can see, but you get to Kenya, man, it is beautiful. Like the like crystal blue skies, like clear water and all the greenery. You can see a lot of the wildlife. I got to see some elephants while I was over there.
Oh yeah,
That was really cool.
that's awesome, man. That's really cool. Well, thank you for what you do, and you obviously are very passionate about it, and that's ultimately what matters at the end of the day. So good for
hmm
you. I'm glad to hear that you're doing well, man. Let's talk about the topic for today. What is the topic, Josiah?
So, the topic of today's episode is going to be small victories. And before we continue, I do need to make a quick disclaimer. So, all of the thoughts and opinions expressed by me on this episode, they are strictly personal. They do not reflect upon the Department of Defense, the United States government, or the United States Air Force. These are all strictly personal thoughts and opinions.
However, mine
However,
do.
comma.
My viewpoints absolutely do reflect the Department of Defense. So, well, let's talk about it, Josiah. Celebrating the small victories and all of that great stuff. Why? Here's the question number one, kind of devil's advocate here. Why would you celebrate the small goals instead of the big picture accomplishments?
So it's not really opposed to, celebrating one side or the other, but I think with the small victories, because, our age group, we have all these ambitions and all these goals that we want to achieve. And sometimes we let the end goal be the only goal. And we forget, like, when we're in our like lower moments, like when we have those lulls in life, that we forget, like, we achieve so much along the way. So like those small victories are really important, to for me at least, because it kind of like gives you that extra boost, like when you feel like you're in a really rough spot, like no matter where you are, um, you know, all the smaller victories, like I don't know, making friends or making your bed, like the really small stuff that help you build to that end goal. I feel like those are like really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely,
I
man.
did.
That was beautifully said. Yeah. I mean, all the small victories and everything, especially when you're in a bad spot, that can make or break your mood for the rest of the day, whether you feel like you accomplished something or didn't. If you're really hard on yourself,
Oh
having
yeah.
those small victories and giving yourself a pat on the back when necessary can actually go a long way.
Oh, absolutely. Especially for me, because I mean, I tend to be, especially with my job, I have to really, because with my job it gets really overwhelming, like really easily. It's a great job, I love it, don't get me wrong, but there are times where it's just like so much is like thrown at you, like in a short amount of time, and it's like you just get completely overwhelmed, and it's like you forget to count, okay, I did this much, of my job, as opposed to having done none of it. And just as it progresses, it gets better and better and better until you reach that end goal.
Absolutely, man. Well, when did you start celebrating these small victories? Did a specific event or time period in your life have you start having this mindset and
Yeah,
celebrating these?
so celebrating small victories for me, has been a huge part of my life since middle school. Um, so when I was in middle school, I went through a really really bad phase of my life. Really like questioned why I was here, my purpose. Like, if it's one of those things where if I were to die tomorrow, would anyone care or would anyone notice? It wasn't like, like I was suicidal or anything like that, but it was definitely not a pleasant place, a really dark place. And it took several years for me to break through, uh, of all of that. So the smaller victories, like, because of course the end goal for me, I mean, it's not like I was really thinking about having goals in mind, but it's like all those like little baby steps. Because I mean, we all know the saying, every journey start of 1,000 steps starts with a single step, or however. I probably butchered that, but I
I know
mean,
what you're
but
trying to
but
say. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, you know what it means. Um, but it's like all the smaller things, they build up progressively. It's not like you're doing small individual tasks. I mean, yeah, they may seem like that at first, but as you build up, you realize you have to build a foundation in order to build a house.
Mm.
You need to build a frame. After the frame, then you do, the
House stuff.
insulation. Yeah, house stuff, as we do in our 20s, building our own homes, hammers and nails.
No, that's a good
But
analogy, though. That is a good analogy. You need the foundation, and honestly, to be able to celebrate you, you have to kind of, honestly, kind of know when you failed, bounce back, but also know that, hey, I may not have achieved this goal today, and that might seem far out of reach right now,
yeah,
but I did X, Y, and Z today that will benefit and help me get towards that large goal.
yeah. And it's like even like the most mundane things, like for me, it's like making my bed. I mean, do I do it every day? Absolutely not. I can tell you, I can count only like this past week, only like maybe 3 times I've actually made my bed. But there are just moments where it's like, if you had like a really bad day, at least you got a nice bed.
That's right.
You just come back home. I think
That's
that was
right.
what was it? I think it was a Navy admiral who said that. It's like one like
A
every
graduation speech. I watched the
yeah,
same thing on
that's it.
YouTube, bro. I know
Yep,
exactly which
that's
one
the
you're
one.
talking about.
Yep, that's the one.
Well, how do you apply these small victories to your daily life? You touched on it with making your bed and stuff, but what else have you adopted on a day-to-day basis in terms of accomplishing and achieving these small goals? And
On a day to day, um, kind of like not really making a checklist, but like knowing like the day prior, like what you need to get done, sort of, and just kind of checking it off as you go down the list. So sometimes it's making my bed, or I need to do admin stuff, or I need to do stuff for military. And I mean, obviously, it's real small, but it's one less thing I have to do tomorrow. So yes, small victories like that. Even the most mundane things can be like little wins. You got to pat yourself on the back. Reorganizing my room. So while I was gone, my parents had to move house. Uh, During that time, that kind of took their mind off of me being gone. But and so when I got back, I mean, not that my room was a mess, but I just had a lot of stuff that was still packed away in boxes that I had to unpack. And it's just it's such a daunting task at first because I'm like looking at all these mountains of boxes and I'm like, oh God, it's going to be a long day. But you just knock one out of time. You do it by zones or something like that, and eventually it adds up, and eventually you got a clean room.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Does or has setting these small victor goals and then accomplishing them and these small victories, have they made you overall happier? Or do you notice that you're much happier overall since you've started doing this, and how so?
To be honest, sometimes it doesn't really feel different. There are times where it's definitely like, oh hey, yeah, I got this done, good for me. But there are plenty of other times where it's like, yeah, it's like, hey, you know what? It's only a small thing, but I did it. I friggin' did it. I
Yeah.
tied my shoes. I went outside. I talked to one person. Um, but yeah, overall, I'd say like you know, it really does help make you feel better about yourself. I just realized I keep talking like it's a soundbite. I need to try to sound more natural.
You're doing fine.
I'm so used to like being like on a camera and just straight to the point messaging and all that.
There's no rush here, my friend, and there's no camera, so you don't got to worry about anything.
Sweet.
Well, for me, I am almost on, well, not now, but I used to be on the almost on the radical flip side of I would almost set too many small goals for
Hmm.
each day that the list would be too long, to the point where I felt like I can't, and I still do at times. I feel like I can't fully ever just relax.
Oh
There's always
yeah.
something on my mind, or I feel like I need to be doing something, and instead of wasting my time, I say wasting my time doing this, doing that, playing video games, whatever it is, that I would almost set too many small goals that if I didn't cross everything off my, let's say, daily list, I would feel like I didn't accomplish anything. When in reality, I accomplished a shit ton of things, but because I didn't cross everything off my list, I felt like even worse than if I just didn't set any of these small goals at all.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'd say that that definitely is a struggle when you try to like make, too many of them. It's just you set so many of them, and then it just turns into one big thing to try to get all of them done. It's like, how are you going to eat an elephant one bite at a time, and all that. And I feel it's like one of the definitely one of the bigger issues when it comes to folks our age. It's like we try to set all these small goals, these little individual ones, and eventually they just build and build and build and build. It's just you need to know when to put like a limit on it, and just realize it's like, hey, just two, maybe even three things is enough, instead of turning it into another big project.
Yeah, and I can't figure out why or how it started for me, and because I've been like this for a while in terms of, I guess it's partly having, these big dreams and I want to accomplish this, this, and this. And it is healthy to push yourself to be the
Yeah,
best version that you can. But
yeah,
there is also an unhealthy side. And I am definitely a victim of it where I can't figure out why, but I put so much pressure on myself to accomplish this much in a certain day when it doesn't need to be that much. And I shouldn't feel like I haven't gotten a lot done in a day when I really have. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard balance, and I feel like I know I am not the only person that has that issue of setting all these goals too many and then feeling unaccomplished for not doing everything that you initially wanted to. But yes, eating the elephant one bite at a time, as they say.
yeah. And that's honestly like, and this is only on the personal side. I mean, this even applies to like professions. So when I was in Kuwait, I wasn't really doing PA stuff. I was an operations manager. So I had a job that had a lots of hard deadlines. Like, I cannot go past this. Um, and was really unfortunate about it is that I relied on like a lot of other people, like other sections, just to like for me to do my job. So when they weren't doing their job, it was affecting me in my job.
Mm-hmm.
So there were like plenty of times where I'd have like a big checklist of like all these like remedial tasks I had to do, and then I couldn't do half the list because someone else is taking forever to do one. I've had to run around like buildings trying to go to like three or four different people and getting the exact same answer over and over again. And like I try to work towards a yes. Like if there's a no, there had better be a good reason for there to be a no. If not, let's find a workaround. Um, and it's like all these like small things, they kept building up, and at the end of the day, it felt like I accomplished nothing because no one else was doing their job. And it's just like one of those things where it's like you just got to kick your feet up. Hey, I did achieve, if nothing else, I achieved XYZ as opposed to ABC. And tomorrow I can knock out ABC and then get a new XYZ, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be linear.
Yeah,
I think that is another issue that goes along with this and goal setting and celebrating the small victories that you may have accomplished, like you said, certain things, but not in the order that you wanted it to
right.
happen in your head. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't go back and and not everything needs to go in an exact order that you planned it to.
Yeah, yeah. You can be like real flexible with the smaller things because it's basically as long as you get those done, like then that's it. It's not like taking away from the overall objective if you do it in a unsequential order. You could do it XAB or XCY, and I'll insert whichever letters or variables you want to do it. But it's like as long as it gets done, no matter how small it is, you got it done. Pat yourself on the back, like you did good. Because
Absolutely.
yeah, because that's actually something I'm doing right now. So I actually just got a camera, a video camera, a Panasonic GH5. I have the camera and I have a stabilizer for it, but I want to build like a rig, like a cinema rig for it.
Yep.
So that's like a matte box, a monitor, a grip, and all this stuff. And I know like at the end of the day, like this is what I want to get. I want to get all of this stuff for it, but it's not going to kill me if I don't get all of it right now. I can build up to it because the thing is, that's a very expensive thing to do, getting all the stuff for it. So I got the camera, I got the stabilizer. Boom, that's two things off right there. I got like two of the most important parts. So maybe, next time I get paid, next week I can just get, you know, another lens, or I can get a monitor, and I could just slowly build it up over time. It doesn't have to be end all be all.
Well, I think that's another issue that honestly goes hand in hand with this exact topic, celebrating the small victories and goal setting, because
Exactly.
a lot of people that are in their 20s have these big goals and aspirations. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, we grew up in a time where if we wanted something, we would get it right then and there.
Yep.
Or with, you know, all the tech that we have, if we want to know something, we can look it up right then and there and have that instant gratification. Same thing with social media. Bam, I
Yep.
just got 25 likes in 2 minutes on my picture. So when you have these goals and you're getting into adulthood and you've been achieving all these goals, or you've been having everything go your way, and you finally reach adulthood and things aren't necessarily lining up perfectly, and you have this expectation to get it done immediately and you don't,
Hmm.
that can really affect your own belief about yourself and your capabilities. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people have these goals growing up. They want to be a doctor or this or that, and then they settle for less as they get older and
Yeah.
don't accomplish that goal because they don't think they can achieve something, because it takes too long, or because the goal's too far away and they don't know how to get to that point.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I got a bunch of friends who are like that, like where yeah, because some of these folks I've known since early childhood, and I've seen like you know all their dreams and aspirations, and they just kind of like settled because the most common excuse is, oh yeah, it's just not like, not that it's too hard, but it's like it's too much, like just in general it's too overwhelming, and it's like they're either not in a position financially or emotionally to try to go out and do it. So we constantly settle, especially like you were saying, instant gratification. I mean, how many times have we Googled something and just boom, the answer's right there. It's not
Yeah,
like how it was, when our folks were growing up, where they had to, go to the library and look through five or six different books
right.
just to get one simple thing. But yeah, yeah, that is a definitely a big part of it, goal setting, and
Well,
like and knowing your limits as
yep,
well, because
absolutely.
yeah. So like kind of going back to Kuwait.
Hmm.
um So when you're setting like all these goals, you need to take into account all the variables that go along with it. It's not, because at the end of the day, yeah, a lot of the goals, they do fall on your shoulders, but keep in mind, not everything falls on your shoulders. Like there's a lot of outside variables that you can't control, that do play a part, whether you can see it or you cannot see it. So when you do hit those, like those small moments, those small victories, that just makes it even better, because especially when everything is working against you, like so during the deployment, it was a bit of a mess, shall we say. What happened was, we were slated to be in Kuwait for 6 months. What ended up happening was our orders got swapped without anyone on my team knowing. um and I'll spare you like all the crazy details, because we'd be here for like maybe 3 days total. Excuse me. Yeah, it was a mess. So our supervisor is like trying to get like information on it, and like we just don't know what we're supposed to do. So when we did get those like little breaks, it's like, okay, we got some information. It's like, yes, we reveled in those moments, because now we actually had an answer to a question that we felt was never going to get answered. So what happened after Kuwait? We actually came back to the States to do a bunch of training before we went to the Horn of Africa. And it was just so hectic. It was just like everything was working against us. We had to do lodging, we had to rent vehicles and all the stuff for our luggage and all that. Well, our finance office couldn't pay for us, because like we weren't with that unit anymore. And no matter who we went to try to get to try to get these funds, we just couldn't find it. So I mean, eventually we did, but it was after like a lot of like stress. Like the amount of times I've stayed up well over like 48 to 70 hours, like just coming back, like I find myself like staying up about like 40 plus hours and all that, and I feel like nothing because I'm just so used to it now. But when we did finally get boots on the ground where we had to be, it was just like, okay, let's take a quick breather. We're here. It's small, but we're here, and now we just get the job done here.
That's crazy. That's a crazy story.
Yeah, that's like the oversimplified, watered down version of it.
Being stuck halfway across the world and not knowing, yeah, I don't know if you're going to be staying here for a while or not, or what you
No,
guys are going to be
so
doing, but
what happened? We got a phone call and we said, "Hey, you have to be on a plane in like 3 hours. Make it happen." And we packed our bags the night before in case that happened, but we weren't expected to be leaving until like maybe 2 or 3 days afterwards. But literally the day after we pack all our bags, we get a phone call. Hey, you want to be on a plane in the next couple hours? Find a way to make it happen. Thank you. And we were like, what?
oh my god. Well, honestly, I think that kind of story can go back to what we were talking about before about the variables that you don't know about. You can accomplish or do everything in your power at the end of the day to say, I did my best. I got so much closer to what I was trying to do
Yeah.
in the long run, blah blah blah. But there's always outside variables and stuff that is out of your control that will there will always be something. There will never be a complete smooth path in life. There will always be at least one, two, three, however many obstacles in your life. Some people unfortunately have worse luck or worse situations than others, but you know,
Hmm.
everyone has their own stuff going on, and it's just the way it is. You still have to push through, and even with the outside variables trying to stop you, you got to stay focused and don't let that deter you.
Yeah, and that's why these small victories are so important because even with all these variables outside, either working for you or working against you, it just makes those those larger goals seem that much more unattainable. So when those small victories do come, it's like it's like a breath of fresh air. Like
Absolutely, yeah,
es-
yeah, yeah.
like especially like financial stuff. uh Obviously, money problems are really bad problems, and that's what keeps a lot of us from those goals. But when you do get like those small victories, like you get like a bonus or a raise or something like that, that's huge. It may not seem much, like, oh hey, you're making an extra 50 cents. It's like, dude, for however many hours, that's however many extra dollars. I'm not going to do math because I hate math, but you get the picture.
More money.
More money.
Well, just I have another question for you since we're
Of course.
kind of on that topic. Has celebrating the small victories help you appreciate the smaller things in life and improve your overall happiness? And what specifically has it helped you appreciate more?
Oh, absolutely. It's absolutely like made it a lot better. Appreciating the small things, like when I do achieve like the bigger stuff, and you look at the small things that helped get you to there, it really helped. It really helped me appreciate it. Could you repeat the second half of that question?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I said,
What
has it improved
specifically?
your overall happiness? And yeah, what specifically, what smaller things in life specifically has it helped you appreciate more?
Smaller things has it made me appreciate? That's a good
Or large
question.
picture, whatever you want to answer.
Um, Probably the smaller one, because my end goal, like career wise, I want to get into filmmaking. Um, I mean, if you couldn't tell by my job or the fact that I got a camera, if that didn't say it enough, but yeah, definitely. Um, they it, Knowing how difficult it can be to get into that field, these like the small wins, like getting a camera, getting that experience. Because with this job, I've been able to travel across the U.S. and I can now say I overseas and all that. I've been getting so much experience from it, and it's like like when you're there in the moment, it doesn't seem that important. But now that I'm back, I realize like all the skills that I've attained while I was over there, and it's just helping me to build towards that. Like again, the camera. Yeah, it's expensive, but it's still a small step. I can actually, now that I have my own camera, I can actually, do video production outside of the military, and that helps improve, keeps my skills up and, refreshed. And I could make a little bit of money on the side, and which can go to a resume. That resume can go to, a smaller, production studio, and, do enough years there. Maybe I'll get into a larger company and all that. It's just like all the small things that I've done along the way. It just always helps build up. So yeah, definitely, it when you have those end goals in mind, it really helps me, to appreciate all the small wins that I've achieved all the way up until that point. So
Yeah, for me, for with this question, for me, the answer would be, since we're so used to being on the go constantly, and
hmm
once again going back to instant gratification, wanting and needing stuff right then, right then at that exact time, to be able to appreciate the small things and the small victories and the small wins, all this stuff helps you appreciate the things that we usually think are in the background, like a sunset or this or that, or all the small things that we take for granted.
hmm
Like, I don't know, waking up this morning. Um, we're so used to just waking up, getting out of bed, and starting our day. And some people roll out of bed with a bad attitude, like, "Oh, I have to go to work and this or that." Well, you woke up this morning. And some people, unfortunately, can't say the same.
right.
So I mean, the small victories, you add them all up, and if it's for one specific area, let's say your professional, your career, or whatever, all these small victories, you're accomplishing these in order to get to a bigger goal, right?
hmm
And you just have to take one victory at a time and realize that at the end of the day, you're doing something to better yourself in any area of your life or
Yeah.
all areas of your life. And we're so used to going that sometimes we need to sit back, relax, and be like, wow, you know, I I have so much to be thankful for and so much to appreciate. And the fact that I was even able to have the ability to accomplish these things during the day, you know, um, isn't something
Yeah.
I should take for granted.
Yeah. And that was definitely like the mentality I had to have when I was just going through training in general. So when I first joined, because I enlisted like clean out of high school, like I'm talking the month after, like actually I actually signed the contract, I think maybe 4 weeks after I graduated. Um, and at first it's like, you're, you're looking forward to being that, the end goal for me back then was just to, get through the training and being, an airman. But man, through basic, and even individual training, it's like, those are some rough days. And it's like, there were points, especially in tech, when I was individual training, we call it tech school for Air Force. I think Army's like advanced individual training or something like that. But, um, when I was going through tech school, because that was I think let's see, it was April, May, June, July, August, September. That was like a 6 month course, and like about halfway through, like I just hated everybody. I hated everything. I didn't want to be there. Like you lose that mindset of like the end goal, and I sure as heck didn't, account for any of the small stuff. I was just trying to survive the day without punching someone in the face because they just got on my nerves. Like I kid you not, there was a time um where we were doing roll call, and someone tried to do like the McDonald's jingle under their breath, uh because we call their name, we address, by last names and all that. I can't remember who it was, but she did the here, and I can't remember what she said, but I don't know what it was. I was just not having a good day, and I under my breath I was like, ba 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 ba, shut the fuck up, doing the McDonald's thing, and everybody heard it because like I was just so like irate. I didn't even realize, that I was actually speaking out loud, and everyone was like, whoa, and I was like, okay, yeah, I said it. What of it? Um, but yeah, so when you do graduate, like those like small, well, not really graduate, but when you achieve those, milestones, whether it be, for me, it was, getting out of basic training, then getting out of individual training, and then my first assignment in my unit. um, and all that. It just it really helps you build. It keeps that mindset. You're still working towards the end goal. You just need to know when to celebrate, because it really helps you like recenter. You know, why are you here? Why are you doing this? Like those small victories, like they really help. Not really a course correction, so to speak, but definitely like a reminder. Like, hey, this is what you're doing this for. Like no matter how bad you feel, no matter how crappy it gets, hey, you woke up, you whether you make your bed or you're not, you made your bed, you got out there, you did what you had to do. Was it as spectacular as you thought? Probably not, but hey, that's another day down. That's another thing you've achieved, and pat yourself on the back and get a good night's rest. Hopefully, maybe.
Well, no, that's great advice. Is there anything else that you would give for someone who may feel stuck or out of reach of their aspirations besides what you just said?
Um, kind of restating what we said before. It's know when to take advantage of those moments when you do like have those like small wins. Because honestly, yeah, obviously, we're working towards an end goal. That's the big purpose. That's the big picture. But like we were saying, it's you got to build up to it. You can't go from just doing regular squats to squatting 315 or something like that. You got to build up to it. And when you do hit those marks, it's like, hey, pat yourself on the back. Um, especially at our age, because we are so ambitious, and we have all these goals in mind. But a lot of people, especially like some of my friends, we've seen a lot of them settle for something less, not because that they couldn't reach that potential. It's just either it was just too overwhelming at the moment, and they had to course correct and all that. So actually, that does bring up a question I had for you. So what was
Yeah.
like, what would you say was your most important or influential small victory or series of victories?
Mm. That's a tough question. Wow. The most important small victory that I've had.
And there
Josiah.
isn't like, and there isn't really like a benchmark to what defines a small, or whether it be really small or medium sized or big small, or whatever, but a victory along the way towards your end goal. Like it doesn't have to be like an actual like small little event. It just has to be something that supported you getting to your end game.
Well, I honestly think getting into college was a big one for me because the last few years were pretty tough for me, and with just stuff that happened, my dad getting cancer, my parents divorcing my senior year of high school, amongst other things that happened over those years. It felt like I didn't have a lot of positivity going on, in terms of everything that was going on around me or that I felt like had happened. I didn't really have the inner happiness for myself
Hmm.
that I had years prior. And so for me, getting into not just any college, but the college that I toured and said, this is the one for me, and having that dream come true, and then going off there and, graduating from there and sticking through and getting a degree. I think, I think that was a victory for me that really kind of changed my mindset, because I don't want to say that I didn't think I was able to further my education, or feel like I wasn't smart enough, or feel like I wasn't able to do something like that. But to know in the back of my head, I have this fresh start, and that everything now going forward, when I'm not at my parents' house, even though they're obviously assisting me financially to get through college, all of my decisions, my academics, my life choices in general, my lifestyle, whatever, is all completely on me.
Hmm.
So whether I succeeded or failed ultimately was on me, which it can be daunting, but to me it was really exciting. So I think that's my answer for you.
Okay. So, did you have like to do like any course corrections? Like, I don't know, like a change in degree or major?
Well, are you asking if I changed majors?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I changed from. I originally went to school uh, for veterinary medicine. I wanted to
Hmm.
be a vet, and then I changed actually my fall semester of junior year. No, it was either spring. I forget now. I think it was late spring. That's why it's kind of blended. Late spring of my sophomore year, going to junior year.
Okay.
Um,
So
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I was just gonna say that,
Oh,
and that's why I
okay.
changed my major.
Okay. So would you say like would you consider that, a small victory when you did change, or would you just call it like a course correction? How would you describe that?
I would say I would say it was a victory because I knew deep down, excuse me, I knew deep down that I could have continued to do veterinary medicine, but in terms of my initial interest to that point in time, it obviously was significantly less, and my happiness and my overall kind of perspective on that career field changed.
Hmm.
And so I knew deep down that I would have to change because I wouldn't be happy. Why would I want to be in a profession, not even starting in the profession, working towards getting into the profession, and I'm already unhappy? And then I would have to work 40 plus years in that field. Like
Right.
that doesn't make any sense. So definitely a big victory because that's probably the first time in my life I really made a big change in my life based on my happiness, and it
Hmm.
was completely on my own versus being influenced by others, whether that's family or this or that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, obviously there's a difference when you're in high school and making your quote unquote own decisions versus being in college or being a grown adult and making your own decisions.
Yeah, where there's like a lot more accountability when
Right, right.
you're in college and all that. Yeah, definitely like small victories. It really like not only does it like keep you like on a certain path, it really teaches you how to be flexible because kind of like what we were saying at the beginning, it doesn't have to be in necessarily a sequential order, but flexibility is another like key aspect of like, you know, attaining these small victories because you need to know like, hey, this is where I need to stop, or hey, I need to keep going, or hey, this is all I can do. It's out of my hands at this point. Just let it rest, sort of thing. That's definitely probably another major aspect of this.
Well,
Um,
what that includes, Josiah, is happiness and how you truly
exactly.
feel about how you're doing and how you feel like you are, bettering yourself or the complete opposite. It honestly goes hand in hand with your happiness, and then you see the people who are ultra successful and this and that, and they truly aren't that happy.
Yeah.
So, on the flip side, yes, accomplish your dreams and bust your ass, work hard or whatever, but
Hmm.
just because you accomplish what you think is the big goal now, you get to that point and then you're like, okay, now what? You're going to be constantly, it's in our DNA to constantly try to find something and constantly, have this aspiration or something else to achieve. But if you keep going, now you make it to this plateau point and you're like, now what? And you're not
That
very happy.
yeah, that is exactly kind of where I'm at right now. So, um, the whole like what now thing when you do feel, when you've achieved like certain things. When I got back, so when when you're deployed, you're in the mindset like, hey, this is my mission, this is what I need to achieve. This is like, the end goal, so to speak. But since we were moved around so much, like I feel like it's like, did we even really achieve a mission? I mean, yeah, I did my job, sure, but I was only in Kuwait for however many months. Then I was out like back in the States, kind of just waiting for something to happen. Then when I finally got redeployed to the Horn, I was only there for like, not even 2 months, and then I'm back home, and it's like, did I really even achieve anything? And in the grand scheme of things, when I asked that question, I look back on it, it's like, no, I feel like I haven't like achieved like a singular mission. But then I also like look back on all the things that I did achieve, out of, the last teams that were over at my unit and the Horn of Africa, we put out more imagery and news stories like than any other team prior to us. like we set like a lot of milestones that I wasn't aware of until like we actually got back home. I actually got a message from my supervisor, like when I got to Germany. That was kind of like the midway point. We went back to Germany before we went back to the States, and he spoke with our commander, and he was like, "Yeah, you guys, you kicked so much ass. Like a lot of people like wanted us to stay a little bit longer
Wow.
because we were doing so good, and I didn't know this. I was just doing my job, throwing the towel, go to bed, wake up, do my job, and repeat the cycle and over and over. But when I got back, it was like, dude, do you realize like how much you achieved? Like, yeah, it may not have felt like much because it was a crappy situation, but look at all this. Like, I'm actually being put in for a whole bunch of accommodation and service medals for it. And I was like, wow, it's like those. I mean, yeah, they didn't feel like small victories, but in the grand scheme of things, now looking back on it, like they do, and not even just you know in my career, like I've gotten more like assertive, like with my job. Like I've had to tell people, hey, no, this is where we draw the line. Because a couple months ago, I probably wouldn't have even like done that. I probably just would have let it slide because I didn't like confrontation. But now it's like all the skills that I've attained, like personally as well as professionally. It's like all those like little things they've really built up and all that.
But
So like when I got back, it's like the big like what now? It's like you got to remember like all the things that you have achieved. It's not just achieving, it's remembering that you've achieved them.
right. Remember where you started.
Exactly.
That's something people, including myself, that's what everyone loses sight of. Where you
Yep.
started and how much you have achieved. You're so focused about the the future that you don't remember where you started. That's 100% true, man. And then also on top of that, maybe someone in on your team thinks that you guys did accomplish so much and was blown away by what you all did, and then you're over here asking yourself if you even did enough. And that's a great point to say that everyone has their own. I don't want to say what's the word I'm looking for. Everyone has their own basis slash standard of what is considered small victory
Yeah.
slash what is considered a big accomplishment or milestone for them. So you don't need to
Hmm.
compare yourself to others or think that you didn't accomplish a lot because your roommates or because your family or friends or whatever did something that in your mind is so much more, you know, grander or spectacular than what you did. Yeah, like you don't need to compare
Yeah.
yourself to others in that regard.
Yeah, it's definitely focused on like where you started versus where you are now. That's definitely like the scale that I'm putting towards myself because I've seen how other people work, and I've had to deal with people whose work ethic was not to a level that I would hold myself to. But I guess that's probably because I'm just like real high speed. But yeah, so when I was in Africa. So it was a three-man team. It was myself, one other person, and our superintendent over in Europe, who was kind of our control center. He kept messaging us like back and forth, like constantly, like every like couple days. He's like, "Look, you guys are doing amazing." So he was definitely like really encouraging us, like, and that could be another thing for I guess small victories. It's like when you do have all these variables, like when other people respond positively and they're sending you like the hey, you're doing good, like that goes a long way as well. Because that definitely
Right.
helped me get through it. Like it's not yeah, it a lot of it is like yourself, like how are you gonna mentally steel yourself, so to speak,
Yeah.
for
Well, it
all
needs
these
to be you
goals.
versus you, not you
Exactly.
versus everyone else. If it's your own goals you're
Exactly.
trying to achieve, why do you care about what other people are doing or what other people are saying about how you're doing? It's you
Right.
versus you, and
Yeah.
that's what you need to do.
Hmm. Yeah, so
Sorry,
when
not
we
trying to
did
steal your thunder. Go ahead.
no, 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 you're good. You're good. So yeah, when those messages did come through, like after I would send a message saying, "Hey, these photos have been posted. Um, here's all like the caption and data and information, so you can write a story and all that." He was like, "Awesome, thank you. You guys are doing really good." Like he was constantly encouraging us despite all the crappy situations that we were facing. But yeah, it is absolutely a you versus you sort of thing because you got to like also look on the bright side of things. It's like, hey, like I could have done absolutely nothing, and we'd be nowhere, versus, me actually getting to my work center, getting it done, despite all, how I'm feeling and all that. You're still getting things turned over, you're getting things done, and you're rewarded for all the stuff that you get done. And if not, then hey, look, if it's out of your hands, it's out your hands. Don't, feel guilty about not being able to do something that you had no control over. But if you do, might as well take the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's so much to unpack, and you could obviously go into other topics besides the small victories about the inner battle, you versus you, and all of that. But I
Oh
think
yeah.
with goal setting slash your internal happiness with what you are achieving, um, it the you versus you concept is definitely a huge portion of it. Your mindset should be like that. I think personally, I mean, that's my opinion. It may not be correct for everyone, but um, that's the way I think. And when I started thinking that way, that helped me kind of tune out the white noise. Is that what it's called? The white noise.
Yeah, white
Yeah,
noise.
yeah. The white noise, the background, all the honestly bullshit.
Yep.
Just to focus on me.
Yeah. Yes.
um,
So actually, there is another question I had for you,
Go for it.
and you can, and I'll give my 2 cents at the end of it too. Is there an area that you feel where small victories aren't enough? And if so, how would you improve it despite all working against you?
Repeat that question.
Is there an area is there an area that you feel sometimes small victories aren't enough?
Aren't enough. Like I am not
Right. So it's like,
prioritizing it or what?
well, not really, it doesn't have to be like not prioritizing, but where it's like no matter like what you achieve, it's like you still feel like you're in that low place.
Oh, I see. I see.
Like, have there been areas in your life where that was definitely, like an actual battle you had to deal with?
Constantly up and right now.
Hmm.
It's everyone has their own demons. And you grow up and obviously you have absolutely no idea. You don't know about how the world works. All you're worried about is going home after school and playing outside with your friends and all that. And but as you get older, you start to realize about everything that happens simultaneously that you constantly have to worry about are things from this and that, and it all comes together at the same time that it can be overwhelming.
Hmm.
And with that being said, sometimes you focus too much on one area, and that means that this part of you doesn't get enough love. um, so my current area that needs to be improved on is probably going to be, oh boy, um probably a little more of my self-love. you know
Hmm.
at the I've gotten so much better at loving myself for who I am, but that's an area that working on yourself obviously it's constant. It's something that you obviously have to keep adapting to every day. And there's some days where I just lack the self-love. I get into not a depression or anything, but just a mini
Kind of like a
sad
lull.
moment. Yeah, like a lull. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that word. Just into a little lull where I maybe I just didn't feel like I did enough that day, or I didn't get a lot done at work or whatever it is. So I'd say self-love for me,
Hmm.
that's a big one. What about
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah. Self-love is definitely a big one for me right now. Um, Reintegrating, because I've had
Yep.
like, a mindset for the past however many months, and it's like it's not like I'm trying to like categorize or prioritize certain like small victories, but it's like no matter like what I do, it feels like it's either I can't change, or if I do, it's not going to be enough.
Mm,
So when I first got back, I mean, like you were saying, we all have our our demons that we got to that we struggle with. For me, it's addiction, because there are times where, well, while I was like I got like heavy into smoking, like not like it wasn't like not pleasant, just because sometimes it was just too much and the gym wasn't working out for me. So like coming back, especially like kind of like not like rough and gruff or anything, but I went back to the gym like one of the first few days I was back with my sister, and like she actually kind of got upset with me because it's kind of like what we were saying earlier about how you perceive yourself versus how others
Mhm.
do. Because my sister, you know, she's reintroduced to her brother who's been gone for so long, and then comes
Yeah,
back and I'm almost not really a completely different person, but I
but you're
like a
different,
lot of change. Yeah.
right?
Especially in terms of how I deal with like getting irritated with certain things. um so I won't go into that story because it's still a bit of a tender subject for me. But yeah, like we drove back and we were just like in complete silence, and it's just like she was like really hurt, and I don't think really hurt is the right words for it, but she was feeling some kind of way about it because for me, I feel like I've been the same, where she's reintroduced to a guy who's you know been drinking, smoking, and all like a lot of stuff that probably isn't really that good for me. But for me, it's just like a normal thing. So it's just like I can't really measure it in terms of smaller stuff. Now I will say, like, I've stopped smoking. Like, thankfully, I like haven't like gotten too far down the rabbit hole, so to speak, in terms of that. But drinking is definitely still one of those things. But it's like it's one of those things where it's just like, can I even have small victories here? And it's just, it doesn't really feel like it's enough. So definitely self-care would be uh my thing. So, and which kind of leads me to the second part of the question. If you can't do it through small victories, how can you think you can improve?
I think with self love specifically, you what I do is I've been in a yeah, I mean, you met Cameron, and I try not to bring it up every episode. I can't help it, bro. I love her. But you met Cameron, and she is a very important piece of my life, and so is my family, and so are my friends like you and Jacob and everyone else. And so for me, it's you know if so many other people care for me and love me, there's a reason for that. It's not like I threw myself into their life and said love me, or that they're forced to like me. If some of my
Mhm.
friends didn't like me, then they wouldn't be my friends anymore. Or at least that's how I am with people. I'm sorry, but there's a reason why they still care about me, still love me, and all of that. And um, I think that says something about me, and it
Yeah.
says something about who I am as a person. And there's different qualities about me that my mom loves, my or Cameron loves, or whoever, that I need to see that. You know, I need to see that for myself and realize that I'm not this bad guy that I make myself out to be. There's a reason why I have all these loving people in my life and all these great friends that support me and all that. Um, so sometimes changing my perspective, instead of looking at the person in the mirror, looking at the person that is Cameron's boyfriend or my mom's son or you know my sister's brother. Um, does that make sense
Yeah.
or no?
Yeah. That makes total sense. Yeah.
So yeah, that's probably it for me. The self love thing is just constantly working on it, not getting overwhelmed with myself, and realizing that I'm here for a reason, and other people love me. So why don't I love myself? There's no reason why I shouldn't be happy with who I am.
Right.
So what about you,
Tan-
man?
Tanner, if you ever feel like in your low space, just remember these words. I would take a bullet for you, buddy.
Oh, I appreciate it. Likewise, brother. I was about to tell you the same thing with your thing. Don't get too much in your head, brother. That you're doing fine.
Yeah. Yeah, family and friends is definitely a good cornerstone to have when it feels like you can't have those small victories. That's definitely a good you know definitely a good thing to have. Um, I think I had one more question. Oh, okay, here we go. Why do you think some people take the smaller wins for granted?
I'm trying to think of something. I'm trying to think of a different explanation than what we kind of touched on earlier, which was the whole need for instant gratification
Uh huh.
slash all of that stuff that we mentioned earlier. I think I honestly think a lot of it does have to do with people's um, inability to accept failure.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
big one.
I think that I don't want to say everyone has a huge ego, but bro, there's so many people that I know that have a huge ego, and I mean, what for? You know, it's
Right.
honestly humility, and being humble and all that stuff. It's a great quality to have. It's a great way to balance yourself and way to learn and
Hmm.
navigate through life. And I feel like some people don't celebrate the small victories because they're not focused on that. They're focused on the big goal because they're trying not to look like a failure or they don't want to accept failure. So I think people just focus too much on the big picture and focus on the long term intangible thing when there's so much to be grateful for right in front of you, and so much opportunities that were there for you today that can help you reach towards that goal.
Hmm.
So that's a combination. I think it's that plus much more, obviously, but those are kind of like the main concepts that I think. What about you, man? What do you
Yeah,
think is the big thing?
yeah, I'd say, yeah, definitely kind of like going along what you were saying about, some people, don't have a level of humility. I almost said humidity there. My goodness.
I almost said it too. That's why I had to correct myself.
Yeah. Um, I think it's for me, it's actually something that applies to me. It's definitely like you're so focused on the end goal or the bigger picture. It's like you forget all the smaller things. That was definitely something I had to learn. The past couple years was that you know don't get like tunnel vision, because if you focus like far too much on the big goal, everything else kind of just it just doesn't really affect you when it really needs to, because at some point your car's going to run out of gas, and those small victories, like they really help refuel. I use a lot of analogies. I just realized that I've used so many analogies for this episode.
You're
um
fine.
but yeah, definitely, you're so focused on the end goal, you lose sight of all the smaller things
I
that help you get there.
I have a quote for you. Name
uh
this movie.
okay.
Yesterday is history.
Kung Fu Panda.
Tomorrow is a mystery. Today's a gift. That's why it
And
is
that's why
called the
it's called the
present.
present. That's Kung Fu Panda. That is Master Oogway talking to Poe.
I saw that on TikTok, and I don't know why it's from a kids movie, an animated movie, man. But it can, if you think about it, the more you think about it, the deeper it gets.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think it's something that honestly ties hand in hand with what we just said, because we are so future driven that we're forgetting about the present moment. Because if you think about it, 2 3 years ago, we were trying to accomplish to get where we are now. When you're in high
Exactly.
school, you were still in high school, and your dream was to be in the armed forces, go in the Air Force, whatever it was, and do what you're doing now.
Hmm.
And you're in that present moment now where that was your goal 2 3 years ago, and now you're still questioning, like, am I even still accomplishing anything? You know?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so I think taking today for granted is a huge thing.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, every day is a gift.
every day is a gift. That's why it's
Every day
called the
is a gift.
present.
That's why it's called the present. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah, just
yeah.
getting through, like, honestly, like, one, if folks listening, like, don't feel like they've ever had, like, these small victories, just getting through the day honestly is a small victory in of itself, because each day brings its own set of struggles or
Mm-hmm.
challenges and all that, and just like getting to the end of it is honestly something that you really should, like, not, I don't know about celebrate, but definitely like realize that, hey, you made it through another day. A lot, like, there's some folks that probably didn't make it to the end of today.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm proud of every single person who's listening. Josiah, I'm
Likewise.
proud of you. I'm
Thank you.
proud of you, man. It's been awesome to see you blossom into the man you are now from freshman Josiah. But I think we're at a great stopping point, man.
Yeah.
It's been a fantastic episode full of great stuff, and honestly a great great episode to get back into the consistent uploads, hopefully. So
Yeah, I mean, look, we did another episode. There's a small victory right there.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's been great, man, for sure.
Yeah,
And thank you
thanks for
everyone
having.
for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely, buddy. Well, this is going to be the end of Let's Talk 20's episode 5. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you took away a thing or two from this episode. And if you want to see anything in the future, just DM me, text me, whatever. Let me know. And we'll see you guys soon. Peace.
Peace out.